Now I'm going to cover keyword density, and I'm going to go over three things. I'm going to explain what it is and why it was important at one time. I'm going to explain why it is no longer very important. And then we're going to go over some best practices about website copying. All right. There was a time when keyword density was important, and it was in the late 90s and early 2000s. That was when search engines were just getting started. Google didn't really get going until about 1998, and Yahoo was behind the times, and there was Alta Vista, but it wasn't as good. It did take a long time for Google to ramp up. There was a number of years when it was not the super sophisticated, world-dominating force that it is today. So as these search engines were just really getting off the ground, they were less sophisticated, and they had less powerful software and hardware to use. For example, I remember back in 1999, if you had a CD player that had 15-second skip protection, that was considered a high-tech item. For the young people out there, 15-second skip protection meant if you jostled your CD player for 15 seconds, then it would start to skip. And this is back when we had CDs and they could actually skip. Nowadays you can fit thousands of songs onto your smartphone, and that's just one option on it. So the technology available to everybody was a lot less sophisticated, so search engines needed very simple methods of ranking websites. And an easy one was keyword density. If you're trying to figure out what web page is a good result for the query baseball, an easy way to do that would be to look for a page that has the word baseball written all over it. And it worked for a while until people started to realize that there was a lot of value to be had from search engine traffic. And when that happened, people started trying to game the system to get their website to rank higher. So you would see people do things like just write baseball all over their website to get it to rank well for baseball. Or people would write words like baseball in white text on a white background so a user wouldn't see it, but a search engine would. And then they would get into all kinds of tricks like that. And over time, as Google's business grew and they got more money from investors and they hired more people and more people were using it, they had the ability and the need to come up with more sophisticated ways of ranking websites. Ways that were, let me skip to the next slide, ways that weren't as easy to game. And technology moves so fast that in just 5 years, the power of hardware, that's like the actual physical parts of a computer, and software, the code that gets written, become enormously different. So, if you go from 1998 when they started, 7 years later, to 2005 when keyword density started becoming much less important, they had a lot more tools to work with, and they had already raised more than $1 billion from investors. And internet connections were really a lot faster. This is when broadband was starting to be adopted, but we were definitely past the days where you had to wait 3 or 4 or 10 or 15 minutes just to download a song. So you could get more information from a user back to Google servers. And they started finding more sophisticated, more accurate ways of ranking web pages. And basically what it boiled down to is they started looking at the relationship between links, because that's harder to game. For example, if CNN.com links out to some website, that's a really good indicator that the website that CNN.com linked to is a quality website. And that's something that's very difficult to game because CNN.com isn't going to link out to just any old website. So they started moving towards more of those kinds of attributes when thinking about how to rank websites. So tips. The first one is if anybody is trying to tell you that keyword density is a really important factor in SEO, or that it's something that you need to optimize for, just be polite, try not to laugh at them, but they really have no idea what they're talking about. It is good to use a few keywords on your web page that you want to rank well for. There is still something to that. Maybe you want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of your keywords show up on your page. Anything like that is reasonable. But what's most important is you don't want to write your copy for search engines. You want to write your copy for humans. There are two main reasons. Number one, conversions. If you're selling anything or if you're trying to keep people on your website, you want to have engaging copy that's going to make them stay on the website or make them want to make a purchase, because that's a lot more important. Number two, you want to get other websites to link to you. That is really the number one factor in how Google and other search engines rank websites. So if you have engaging content or really well written articles, well written by a human mind, that would encourage other websites to link to you. And that's really the sort of thing that's going to help you rank well in search engines.